Hey everybody, it's Casey Williams. I know this vehicle looks completely ridiculous, but it might be the most Mercedes of all Mercedes made today. It looks like a Jeep Wrangler, but it has that old school build quality that I remember in the 1970s when I was a little kid. I really love it. It'll drive over anything. It rides like a Mercedes S-Class. It has the interior like a Mercedes S-Class, but it's priced like a Maybach. It's a 2024 Mercedes G550. Let's go have a look at it. If you think the G-Wagon looks like something that really belongs in the German military, you're not far off, because that really was the intention of this vehicle when it debuted back in the 1970s. But over the decades, it's become the darling of Hollywood actors and football players. And it really just has its own celebrity appeal now. Every time I drove this car somewhere, people would come up and look at it. Driving on the highway, mothers stuck their heads out of minivans looking at it. And I was really surprised, because honestly, it just looks a lot like a Jeep Wrangler from the outside if you don't know what you're looking for. But then you see that look of a Jeep Wrangler with the Mercedes badges, and it just takes an entirely different aura. But I really like the design of it. It's virtually unchanged since it came out. If we looked at the dimensions, you'd find this one's just a little bit wider and a little bit longer than the previous generation G-Class. And that's because we had to make some concessions to get a little more side impact protection, a little bit of pedestrian protection in the front. But it basically is the same vehicle it's always been. Looks very nice. But I like the updates too. I like the body color trim, I like the LED headlamps, the rings around for the driving lights. The upgrades where they need to be upgraded, and the things that need to be left alone were left alone. The black trim, I just like the whole thing. It just looks really cool. Nothing else looks like it for sure. 18-inch matte black alloy wheels. Those are part of a $25,000 option package that also includes the roof rack. And I'll show you something else around the back that's part of that package too. But I like the black trim, it looks really cool. I love this. Come here and look at this. Anybody that drove or was around Mercedes in the 70s and 80s, the click of the door. I mean, this is where the idea of it sounds like a bank vault closing. It's just, oh, I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Come around the back. This is also part of the package with the black logos and the external spare wheel. Of course, what you need when you're taking luggage to your private plane is a cherry wood floor in the back of your SUV. Again, part of that $25,000 option package. But there's quite a bit of space back here. Again, there's not as much space back here as a full-size SUV, like the GLS, but there's enough. Had away for the weekend, plenty of space to get my family stuff back here. Back seats also fold down, there's a ski pass-through, so a lot of practicality too. Well, that's one thing the original G-Wagon never had. It's a 4-liter bi-turbo V8, so there's 460 horsepower, 450 pound-feet of torque, routes that all to the standard four-wheel drive system through a 9-speed automatic transmission. It has cylinder deactivation, so it'll run on 4 cylinders on the highway. But the thing's a brick, and it's got a lot of horsepower, so it's going to drain gas. You're looking at 13 miles per gallon in the city, 16 on the highway, so it doesn't really matter where you drive it. Just take it, stomp that throttle, get on the highway, and enjoy it. Well, the interior of the G-Wagon has been through a few iterations too. If you go back to the 1970s, it was just really plain, like a 1970s Jeep almost. And over the years, it keeps getting updated with whatever the current standard is for Mercedes. This one, current standard, maybe not compared to an S-Class, but still very contemporary. You got the twin screen arrangements, flat screen gauges, infotainment screen, controlled with the joy wheel down below. It's a little confusing, a little finicky, but eventually you figure out how to use it. There is no wireless CarPlay, no wireless auto, and no wireless phone charging. And to the best of my knowledge, I haven't found a USB-C port yet either. So getting my iPhone connected, music pumping through the system, wasn't the easiest thing to do. But once you connect with USB, you can go through Bluetooth, but again, it's just not seamless as you'd like. And I like to really get to Apple CarPlay and use that too. But the interior is still really beautiful. You have the Burmester audio system. You can just crank and thump the sound. Fantastic. Listen to Tina Turner this afternoon coming home. My daughter plays the 10 spot all the time. Really kind of rocked out this weekend with the Memorial Day holiday. Do have a power glass roof up here. And even with the roof rack, it does open. So that's very nice. There's another options package that includes the Napa leather seats. These are heated, ventilated, have massagers in them. They also have dynamic side bolsters on the driver's side. So if you put the vehicle into a corner, although I wouldn't recommend it, it does cinch you in. If you're doing some serious off-roading, you're kind of rocking back and forth, that'd also be nice. Some other things are part of the options package. The stitched leather here on the dashboard. Again, everything feels expensive. This is all real wood around the dashboard on the inside here, on the doors as well. Got some wood here on the console. And you can, if you're buying this vehicle, you can change the different types of wood and option how you want to. Very nice. This is a little more kind of last generation GLE, last generation S-Class with the screens that was set up, but it all works okay. I really hope they go to the new screen arrangement very soon, like in the new S-Class and the new SL Roadster. But it worked okay. It certainly feels modern. I like the nice thick heated leather wrapped steering wheel. Just very comfortable around. 2 people in front, 2 people in the back, very comfortable, plenty of luggage space. Also like the microfiber suede headliner, pretty cool. As far as the safety gear, you've got quite a bit of that too. Automatic emergency braking, lane and keep assist. It's pretty aggressive, honestly, lane keep assist. Out on the highway, I turned off because it was really braking to keep the vehicle in the lane. You got near the line. Also has a blind spot warning and then rear cross path detection. So most of the modern safety systems you expect on a vehicle like this. This vehicle has changed quite a bit underneath the skin since the last time I drove a G-Wagon about 20 years ago. That vehicle at the time had a solid front axle, had recirculating ball steering that wasn't very accurate. Honestly, I had the vehicle in Dallas when I lived in Dallas and I was driving on the freeway, and it really just felt like an old school Jeep on the freeway with a nice Mercedes interior. And I kind of expected the same thing when I got this one, and I was really surprised. So first of all, this one has an air suspension. I've got it in comfort mode right now. You can put it in sport mode, and it will rattle your teeth. It's still, this is a big, tall, heavy 5,500-pound truck, so you're not going to just toss it into a corner and expect it to react, especially those big fat tires out there. But it does stiffen up and feels just a little bit sporty. Over the weekend, we were driving to a state park. We were on country 2-lane roads, driving through cornfields. Some of those were pretty challenging in a big truck like this, but the size of it, the proportions of it was pretty easy to get down the road, and it handled up pretty well. But out on the interstate, I spent 2 hours on the interstate, had it in comfort mode. It just rides like an S-Class, or at least the Mercedes GLS crossover. That's a more modern vehicle, but very comfortable. Nothing like a Jeep out on the highway. Those big fat tires just soaking up, soaking up all the bumps. So that was just really a pleasant surprise. If we decide to get off-road, we actually have 3 locking differentials, front, center, and rear. So it is an absolute mountain goat. You can drive this thing. Again, imagine where you drive a Jeep and you can pretty much take this one to the same places, even though it's essentially a Mercedes, interior and feels like a Maybach when you're in it. But just the old school charm of it, you sit in it, flat glass all around. It just feels like it pulverize bumps into submission. And then it does that and you just get on the highway and it just glides. And I've just thoroughly enjoyed that. The other thing is that big V8 engine. You're out on the highway, cruising whatever speed, and you just kind of step into that throttle and you just feel the rumble beneath your foot. You feel the exhaust, you can just hear it. It almost feels like you got a Hemi underneath the hood. And it's just like this, again, this real old school charm, super cool, and like nothing you've ever experienced before. Well, when I was hanging out on the penthouse upstairs, I told you this had a price on par with a Maybach. I lied to you a little bit. The final price of this vehicle is actually more expensive than the base price of 2 different Maybach models. So this is really at the top end of the Mercedes price category. However, the kind of people who buy these vehicles probably don't care. Most people buy these, they're Hollywood actors, they're actresses. Tina Turner had one, Cindy Crawford famously had one, football players have them. They're people who simply like the vehicle, want the vehicle, and price is really just an afterthought. So keep that in mind when you hear the price. The base price for a G550 is $143,000. This one, with all the options packages, the Napa leather, the roof rack, the cherry wood decking in the back, $188,650. The old saying goes, if you have to have this price, you can't afford one, and that's certainly true of this vehicle. But if somebody dropped this in my driveway, I would absolutely love it. Well, next week we have another fun car. Until then, storm forward.